Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and there were celebrations across the country and right here in the Electric City. Full details in just 6 minutes. Your ABC Montana News starts right now.
Covering Montana right now. This is ABC Local News at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Taylor Tucker.
And I'm Ty Hawkins. More on Martin Luther King Jr. Day in just a bit.
First tonight, we head to Billings, where a Shepherd man is dead following an officer-involved shooting. Our Luke Laster has more.
The suspect and decedent in this case is identified as Shepherd resident Chance Mavity.
Mavity was no stranger to law enforcement, a registered violent offender, assault convictions in Carbon County, and currently wanted out of Missoula for probation and parole violations, as well as absconding warrants.
Mavity was reported to have access to multiple firearms, being armed, and the willingness to shoot it out with police before going back to jail.
Mavity was armed with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. 5 rounds were fired out of the 7-round magazine, and no officers were hit. 2 Billings police officers were involved in this shooting, 36-year-old Cody Kaiser and 29-year-old Brad Mansour. The two have collective 18 years of experience in law enforcement.
Both officers fired rounds from their department-issued Glock 40 caliber handgun. Investigation shows that Kaiser fired 15 rounds and Mansour 4.
Approximately 1:55 p.m. Sunday, officers responded to Northside Pawn, located in the 2200 block of 1st Avenue North, in regards to some people trying to pawn stolen objects, 2 of which included firearms. After officers confronted Mavity and the 2 other individuals he was with, a chase ensued around the area. Once Mavity was at a standstill,
Officer Kaiser saw something in Mavity's hand and ordered him to drop it. Mavity refused to comply, yelled profanities at Kaiser, raised a weapon, and fired, narrowly missing Officer Kaiser's head. Kaiser returned fire and maneuvered to cover. It is unknown who fired first.
Despite being mortally wounded, Mavity refused to drop his weapon and continued to swear and yell, despite Kaiser and Mansour's instruction to stop resisting.
Officers secured Mavity, rendered aid until medical personnel arrived, and he ultimately died at the scene.
And 2 schools in western Montana go into lockdown today following the discovery of threats made against students. Both incidents happened in Ravalli County, with the sheriff's office responding to both Florence Carlton School and Lone Rock School in Stevensville. Sheriff Steve Holton says a threatening note was found in a locker at Lone Rock School, and school officials are looking into the incident. Authorities have yet to release when the note was found or if they have a suspect in custody. And moving 10 miles north, deputies also responded to a lockdown this morning in Florence, where students were in class today.
Florence Carlton School went into a modified lockdown for 2 hours after school officials became aware of threats made on social media. The lockdown was lifted around 11:30 this morning, and the Ravalli County Sheriff's Office says deputies have taken a 13-year-old boy into custody for allegedly making threats on social media. The lockdown began around 10 a.m. after school administrators told Superintendent Bud Scully about the threat. Scully says he placed the school on a modified lockdown because they identified a suspect right away and were able to lift the lockdown a short while later. A modified lockdown means all the exterior doors are locked, but students and staff can move freely inside the school. Overall, Scully says he's happy with how the incident was handled.
By using the lockdown procedure, by using what we have school messenger, allows us to send phone call, text, and an email to every parent. And we notify the school board and every staff member. We have all those phone numbers, and so whether you can answer your phone or look at a text or receive an email, you got the message that we were in a modified lockdown.
Sheriff Holton says the suspect was not in school today, adding there are no other suspects in this incident. The student has been charged with felony intimidation. Now, Scully adds classes resumed as normal with extra law enforcement at the school. School will also resume as normal tomorrow.
And switching to this winter weather now, over the past 24 hours, Montana Highway Patrol has responded to over 60 accidents ranging from slide-offs to injury crashes. This is a live look at the Montana Department of Transportation road report. Most of the state's highways are covered in yellow, which means snow and ice covered roads. In some cases, visibility is limited because of blowing and drifting snow. We spoke with the National Weather Service, who says there will be a slight break in the weather later tonight into tomorrow, but come Wednesday, a new system will move in, bringing more precipitation. MDT is urging folks on the road to slow down and allow yourself extra time while on the road. And Allison Cummings is in tonight now for Chief Meteorologist Ted King. Very dangerous conditions out there.
Yeah, you know, that VO pretty much summed it up. It will die down later tonight, but roadways still slick tomorrow because it will be freezing tonight, freezing tomorrow. And blowing snow also a factor. It will be breezy again tomorrow, so visibility really not ideal for those roadways. But those weather headlines, we do warm up slightly, talking those 30s possibly tomorrow for some areas and those 20s clearing out there as well. But we are not done with the snow. It does return later into the week. So the winter weather advisory there in the purple will expire in the next hour or so. But if you are traveling, that winter storm warning down by Billings will remain. Up to 8 inches of snow expected there. So please be careful if you're traveling. I suggest waiting till tomorrow afternoon if you can put that off. And here's a look at those highs today, below freezing throughout central Montana, though down in Bozeman and up in Kalispell, surpassing that. And those morning lows, teens up along that high line, 20s throughout central Montana, as we're still seeing that snow on our satellite radar. I'll tell you when that should stop, though, in my full forecast. Taylor, Ty.
And Great Falls Public Schools announced today that Greg Nean has withdrawn from being considered for Great Falls Public Schools superintendent. Nean and Tom Moore were the finalists for the position. GFPS says over the weekend, Mr. Nean said that he does not feel that the district is a good fit for him at this time. The board agreed last week to postpone their decision to do further interviews. Great Falls Public Schools Board of Trustees will still host the second interview with Tom Moore and likely make a decision regarding the superintendent. The board will be interviewing Tom Moore on January 24th at 5:30.
Nationwide, people are gathering to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. and the legacy he left. Here in Great Falls, churches, the University of Providence, and community members gathered to reflect, sing, and pray that Martin Luther King Jr.'s words continue to live on each and every day. Pastor Kelvin Steele from Abba Father Church of Faith led with a speech at the University of Providence explaining how important it is to realize Martin Luther King Jr.'s message that one's dignity may be assaulted, vandalized, or mocked, but it can never be taken away from us unless surrendered.
There might be someone in this building today that's secretly battling with depression, oppression, anxiety, alcoholism, drug abuse, being physically and verbally abused, and secretly considering suicide. I want you to know that you are special and dearly beloved in the eyes of God.
The university also rang bells symbolizing a moment to honor Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. The Abba Father Voices of Praise also performed with songs encouraging the community to sing along and reflect on what this day means to our country.
And the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park in Atlanta reopened today despite the government shutdown. That's after a company stepped up to make sure the historic landmarks would temporarily open their doors on the federal holiday. Omar Jimenez is in Atlanta with a closer look.
It's a great day. It's a beautiful day.
Across the nation, people are pausing to remember the legacy of civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr., including several presidential hopefuls who participated in King Day events.
We honor how he stood up to racial injustice. We honor how he fought to bring America one step closer to her founding promise of equality.
This as the King family reflects on the work ahead.
The dream has become a nightmare for too many American citizens on the left and the right.
In Atlanta, at Ebenezer Baptist Church, Martin Luther King Day means just a little bit more. It's where both Martin Luther King Sr. and Jr. were once pastors, like Reverend Raphael Warnock is now. The MLK National Park in Atlanta was closed because of the government shutdown. That included the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, along with King's birth home, his tomb, and a visitor center to learn about the civil rights icon. That was until Atlanta-based Delta Airlines stepped in, offering grant money to the National Park Service to reopen.
It says something about Atlanta, too. And there is no Atlanta without all of this.
And with no end in sight to the government shutdown, hundreds of thousands of federal workers, including many in Warnock's congregation, are in limbo.
In the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., we have to get beyond this.
Sticking with national news, the art of the deal didn't seem to work this weekend. President Trump's plan to end the partial government shutdown fell flat. John Lawrence reports.
President Trump tweeting a statement Sunday night to the hundreds of thousands of federal workers who aren't getting paid during the shutdown, calling them great patriots. This coming one day after he laid out a proposal aimed at ending the standoff.
This is a common sense compromise both parties should embrace.
He's offering 3 years of extended protection for some dreamers and for immigrants covered by temporary protected status to stay in the U.S. In exchange, the president wants $5.7 billion for a border barrier.
Walls work, and we need walls.
But Democratic officials aren't interested in President Trump's offer, saying it's a temporary reprieve for programs he scuttled. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the president's speech unacceptable and a non-starter.
Mr. President, open up the government, and then Democrats and Republicans can have a civil discussion and come up with bipartisan solutions.
If the shutdown isn't resolved soon, federal courts will run out of money this week and food stamps in February. School lunches could take a hit in March.
We have to reach the point where government shutdowns are absolutely unacceptable, where we say to the president and the president says to Congress, this is not a tool that you can use to put political pressure on anybody.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he'll put President Trump's proposal on the floor this week. Republicans and Democrats plan to vote on separate plans aimed at reopening the government this week.
Sunnyside and Lewis and Clark Elementary Schools in Great Falls recently received a grant for the No Kids Hungry program. Right now, 11 schools in Great Falls offer the No Kid Hungry program. And we had a chance to stop by Sunnyside Elementary School, where the program started back in November of last year and has already made a huge difference.
The reaction we get from students is impressive. Prior to starting breakfast after the bell here at Sunnyside, we served 160 students breakfast every day in our cafeteria. Once we've implemented here, we're serving about 321 students every day. We doubled our participation in breakfast.
Sunnyside Elementary School has about 450 students, so with this new program, they're giving breakfast to about 75% of their kids. Last year, they served roughly 470,000 breakfast meals, and with this new grant, they're hoping to serve an extra 20,000 this year. Looking forward, Sunnyside Elementary says they will continue to be a part of No Kid Hungry and look forward to seeing other schools participate as well.
Since its creation in 1995, a public park and dozens of local businesses began opening up near it, helping create the heart of the downtown Missoula many know and love. Since the Carousel for Missoula opened its doors 24 years ago, nearly 5 million people have taken it for a spin. There are 38 horses and 2 handicapped accessible chariots, all made from bass wood. It takes anywhere from 500 to 800 hours to paint and hand carve one of them. John Thompson is one of those carvers. For him, it's a labor of love.
We love kids, and that's why we do it. In fact, my kids, when I started this, the youngest was about 4 years old, and now he's 32, and I'm still down here playing. And now we bring our grandkids down here.
On each wood sculpture, John carves a ladybug to represent his wife, and the wedding ring John wears is the same ring you'll find on the dragon's hand as you reach up to grab a ring of your own. Coming up on Fox Montana News at 9 and ABC Montana News at 10, our Stella Sun will tell you more about the hidden treasures inside a carousel for Missoula. In JT, Justin Timberlake makes an unexpected visit to one hospital, bringing smiles to kids' faces. Stay with us.
You can get news anytime.
From ABC Fox KFDB.
Just add KFDB to your Amazon Echo.